FM26 is a 3-star potential ability game with about a 2 gray star current ability. Hello, my friends, welcome in. I want to walk through my experience now with FM26. I've got a little bit more than 24 hours played in game. And I think what you've seen is there are other content creators that our view of FM26 started more positive and is starting to slowly dwindle. Now, 20 million people played FM24, so I'm bound to make some of you irritated with this, but I hope you'll hear me out because it comes from a place of concern. Okay, I've just tried to show you goals, to show off the match engine, to tell you I think it's one of the few saving graces of this game right now. But even that, I've already watched the highlights and I was like, well, I need to hit record and start talking because the highlight happened faster than I was expecting. Now when I go back into the match and I click on goals, the teams are warming up and it's broken. It goes straight to the end screen at the end of the match. It doesn't play the goals. And you might say, that's clearly a bug and they'll fix it, but it's just like, to me, this is the indication of the overarching problem. Yes, I can click on these goals individually, but earlier it was just showing me the goals. And when you click go to match, it takes you here. At the end of the day, this is a very, very unpolished football manager. Yes, it's a beta, but it comes across to me that Sports Interactive are massively struggling with Unity. Let's try a different game we played at a lower league side in the German Cup. And it goes straight into the goals. This is beautiful. It's much, much better than FM24. It's a joy to watch. I have watched several games and just been mesmerized by this. So I'm not trying to say FM26 is a bad game or it's the match engine's fault, but it does come across like they primarily spent the last 2 years only working on the match engine and they've cobbled together a UI, which I know is probably not true, but that's how it feels. Another thing that is working really well is the search bar. I cannot tell you how to get to responsibilities. I always just type response and go straight there to figure out where the responsibilities are. And does this screen tell you where it's at? I guess it's under portal. It says portal responsibilities. No idea. And people have said previous betas were also pretty rough, and obviously the difference here is that those betas were on a game that essentially hadn't changed in like a decade. They'd moved some stuff around, but they knew the engine, they knew the layout, they knew how stuff worked, and they just needed to like polish some new things up. Obviously, this is a brand new game, brand new engine, brand new everything. My concern is that, yes, I am one of those 1,000-hour players. I'm not saying I think the UI design overall is bad. I think it is broken. I've run into too many bugs, errors, and glitches for me to believe they spent any time testing this. And we had a really good discussion in my Discord, a cordial one, I will say. That was a disagreement about screen sizes and developing for various screen sizes and all that kind of stuff. But the reality is, FM26 doesn't have adapted scaling. So what they've put out with these various screen resolutions that you could pick is intentional. I would be a lot more forgiving if it's like, hey, we had a 1080p, like a 1920 by 1080 view, but because you're playing on a higher resolution or I play on a 27-inch 1440p monitor. I'm not playing on a 34-inch curved thing, but I'd be much more forgiving if it was like, okay, we've got a solid 1080p, 1920 by 1080 wide view, so there's gonna be a little hiccup here or there when you scale it larger or smaller. But that's not the case. Here's an example. Fitness test. I've got 6 players under monitoring. One, there's all kinds of space here that could be utilized. Maybe that's, hey, it doesn't work on smaller resolutions. But the columns don't align. And it says fitness test as if they couldn't fit in fitness tests here. In this box, you can't scroll. I'm scrolling my mouse right now in this blank space where my cursor is. Nothing happens. The only time you can scroll is on the text of the players' names or their faces. If you go above or below or to the side, it only works on these 4 elements: the photo, the icon, the name, and this text. None of the white space. So you're sitting here going like, I've got all this space. You have to be so precise to scroll through this. And then it doesn't really tell you anything. What does partial pass mean? Well, when you click on it, This is the information you used to get directly in your inbox. I need to know that they can only play 75 minutes, but the partial passes are at the bottom. That just seems really poorly designed to me. That's not oh, it's in a different spot, which you will eventually get used to. That is we don't know how to make Unity scroll unless you're being very specific. And this person down here doesn't have a name or an icon. There are some weird choices where it just seems that they have forgotten, or the team that built the functionality forgot what every FM ever was like. Everywhere in the game where you are seeing a vertical pitch with player positions starts with goalkeeper at the bottom, striker at the top. Except the youth intake preview where it's flipped 180 degrees. The center backs are at the top, the goalkeeper's at the very top, and the strikers are at the bottom. And it does it when you click into the report as well. And this report is massive with acres of space that doesn't get utilized. They've replaced the inbox with messages. That's fine. It's essentially the same thing, except it pops up. Except sometimes it doesn't pop up and it's just a screen like this. So you might argue it's a small thing, but it's a confusing thing and it causes extra clicks. It's more friction. I think that's mostly what I'm feeling is friction. And it's not friction because I don't know where stuff's at. That's a different thing and I can put that to the side. It's friction because how they've deployed it. I've got my top message here. I've read all of the messages. Let's watch what happens when you hit continue. You're going to get a mini pop-up. Okay, stuff is coming in. It's going to add to my list of things. It now hops down. I was here. 1, 2, 3, 4 messages. So it's not even like you're on your last unread message. You're going back into the past. And to me, that indicates some sort of an issue with screen state. I'm not a developer, but I know enough to be dangerous in some instances where it's loading the previous screen state and ignoring the fact that you read these messages, because these were the unread messages that I just read. So if you're trying to take their advice and use your keyboard to use up and down arrows to go through messages, you now have to do that an extra 4 times, which is a small thing, but it increases friction. And I think kind of underlining my concern here, you might go, oh, it's 4 extra taps of your keyboard or 4 extra clicks of your mouse. But this is like the main part of the game, and they didn't fix that before they pushed it out as a beta. Surely they had to have noticed when you hit continue and new messages come in, you go backwards into the past on your messages. Why wasn't that fixed? While we're here, it shows a random XG graph with no colors. And when you click this, hey, I want to see about that last match. You're sending me data about the last match. It takes you to the general data hub and you have to click on last match. And eventually you're able to see the XG. I swear I'm trying not to just hammer every single thing. I put out a tweet thread with 27 items on it yesterday for when you're seeing this video. But like, you go to match day, I want to see my tactics. Let's watch how long it takes for the tactics screen to load. 3, 2, 1, click. There's a delay. So this tells me they're struggling with Unity. You click on team instructions, you get the same delay. I want to change attacking transition. I'm clicking right now on standard in this white space, or blank space, I should say. It doesn't work. If I move up a little bit, it works. If I move down here, it works. If I move to the side, it doesn't work. If I move over here, it works. It works. It works. So you've got this giant button, but only random places of the button work. You can click, obviously, on the whole, and that works. Your instinct as a user, go, I see standard. I want to click standard. And you click on balance. I'm clicking right now. Nothing happens. I've had instances where the X button doesn't work. I think it's primarily at the end of matches, and you're forced to hit continue, like it displays some information. It's not the training screen, but like you literally hit the X button and nothing happens. But little things like that. Training is a pop-up. Matches feedback is a pop-up. Tactics feedback is a pop-up. Next opposition report is a full screen. So it's just inconsistencies. It almost comes across like they had different teams design different screens of the game, and then they've kind of tried to smash them together in some sort of a way rather than a unified vision. And while we're here, top left, you've got this nice little nav bar to show you like how deep you are into these screens. But these don't do anything. I'm assuming they'll fix that eventually where you can click this to go back a screen instead of having to click this. There are lots of little quality of life things that you didn't realize you'd miss until they were gone, and I'm assuming they'll eventually add them back in. An example is you can't tell, one, which round of like the cup that you're in, or the Women's Champions League, and I'm assuming it's the same thing on the Men's Champions League and the other FA Cups. You can't even see your upcoming opposition where they are in the table. Take the English Premier League right now in real life. If you're playing FM, would you assume that Bournemouth are in second and Sunderland are in fourth? Sunderland obviously just having been promoted? Of course not. Wouldn't it be nice if on your schedule you could see this is who you're playing? A really good team is having an off season. It's time to capitalize on that. A newly promoted team is doing exceptionally well. Don't make a negative assumption, you might get your socks beaten off. And I'll move my camera here just in case you think it's hidden over here. It's not. I pointed this out in a different video, but I just cannot believe they have gone away from giving you the ability to sort any attributes on staff members that apply for jobs. I can agree to disagree on hiding the numbers because the numbers are still there. I found a bug where they're in the staff database search section and you click very good and all of a sudden it says 15. But I have always hired staff through applications. I want you to look at my staff right now. I've got 7 coaching vacancies, 14 recruitment vacancies. So what is that? 21 and 4 more medical. That's 25. For each of those, I'm going to get 8, 10, 12 applications. And while I like having staff apply, that's just how I've played the game. It's like you've put out a newspaper ad. There's no applicant tracking system that provides you any information as to which candidates you might want to look at first. So I'm fine if you want to remove the numbers and hide them behind text. But this should be pre-sorted based on elite to competent, essentially your 20s to your 4s, on the attributes that are important for that job. Because without that, you've got to click Omar. Oh, he's very good. Was that the best candidate I have? I don't know. Let's go to Matthias. Average. Well, maybe Omar was the best candidate I had. There's no indication it's pre-sort. Oh, he's good, so it's not pre-sort because good's better than average. So you spend all this time clicking through all of these names only to have to turn around and go, oh shoot, was it this one? Do I need to write down on a piece of paper which one was good or above average or very good or elite? That's insane. So you're essentially looking through digital resumes without any assistance from the game at all. That's a bad design decision. And obviously it gets a lot more complicated if you're hiring a coach where they've got different attributes, attacking, defending, tactical, technical, etc., that you'd want to sort by. It's easier on physiotherapy and sports science because it's like, I just care about, do they know physiotherapy or sports science? So removing the ability to stack rank the candidates based on their capabilities is painful. If you play in lower leagues like I often do, I bring in a lot of trialists. In general, I bring in trialists at the beginning because a lot of times your scout department is empty or very empty in Football Manager. So if you're trying to quickly bring some players in to evaluate, trialists is the way to go. That's great, except trialists do not show up anywhere in your transfer activity or transfer history. Here's my transfer activity. I've gone way back. This is August 24th in my save with Wolfsburg. If I take off active only, I still only have the loan offers for my 2 players. I don't have any other activity showing trialists. Okay, maybe it's not there. Maybe it's under transfer history. So I click transfer history. All transfers. Nothing. It's like the players never existed. So the only way to see trialists are the ones that are currently with you and they're highlighted in yellow. Okay, they're a different color. But once they leave, if you're like, well, I wasn't too sure, but we still might want to bring them back or something like that, you have no indication of who you brought in on trial. I've got 2 more negative things and then we'll get back to talking. Dynamics was such a big thing when they released it in FM and then in the subsequent editions of the game. And I just find it very confusing that the giant pyramid, which was nice, elegant, showed you who was who, had their faces, is gone and replaced with a bunch of text. They've kept the pyramid, but in a teeny tiny format that is really, if you didn't have prior FM experience, I think you'd find this very hard to read. And like you see all of this screen real estate and go, that's worse than the previous versions with the pyramid where you would just put the players all on an actual physical row. This is worse. The last thing I want to talk about, and I've gone ahead and gone into the game against PSG in the Women's Champions League, is you get 2 places to interact with your squad in the entire 90-minute match. I never thought shouts were that important. And I think Dr. Benji put out a video about this. Even if the shouts didn't meaningfully change anything in the game, the fact that the little colored faces would react made you feel that as a player of a video game, you were influencing what was happening on the pitch. Without that, I feel like a passenger. I'm watching a beautiful match engine. Very happy with that. But it's like we've been told you have to be Ruben Amorim during penalties. Stoic, not watching, not interfacing with his team, just sitting there. And that seems very odd to me. I'm not saying we need to gamify, make sure you hit the A button 3 times and then the B button in the first 13 seconds of a match highlight, and then something will happen, some sort of odd mini game. But it does take away from the immersion of the experience when you think, how many managers just sit and watch their team play? And the only time they interface with the team is to change the tactic or to have a substitution. It doesn't happen. They're gesticulating on the sideline, they're throwing water bottles or kicking them like Jose Mourinho did. Just sitting and watching something beautiful feels a little bit less like playing FM and more like watching FM. So again, this is beautiful. I feel like every game I've played, it's been raining. Maybe that's just the weather in Wolfsburg and in Paris, but it just seems like they're showing off the rain a lot. Maybe it's the time of year. Like, this is great. It's fantastic to look at. I have to just take my hands and put them in my pocket for the next 45 minutes of this match. Sure, my assistant may, make a recommendation, we should press this person or whatever. But in my experience in FM24, assistant managers didn't always give the best advice, or like were offering to change way too much. And Patamors has scored. And I just sit here. I take my hands once the match has started and I put them in my pockets. There's no point in having my hand on a mouse. There's nothing to react to. And I think I'm surprised at how much I miss the ability, it's like every 20, 25 minutes to drop a shout in there. Again, even if it didn't actually do anything, as a player, you felt like you were influencing what was happening on the pitch. And now I just feel like I'm watching what's happening on the pitch. And while we're here, a random bug I've experienced is if you switch it to only commentary, I am playing on the hot fix that was rolled out Friday after the beta came out. So if it's changed by the time you see the video, they roll something out on Monday morning or something like that, I'm playing on the Friday hot fix. If I change it to only commentary, my 2D disappears and I get this. I'm going to play it. I get some random, I guess it's showing like possession. It's replicating this maybe here. That looks pretty similar, although that doesn't look like 52% and 48%. And when you switch it back, it's back. So all this, I guess, is to underline, I feel like SI has mightily struggled with Unity. Like in more ways than I thought was possible, especially considering Unity was their choice. No one forced them to do this. And it also makes me wonder, it doesn't matter. It's probably, I should just consider it water under the bridge at this point. How bad was FM25? It must have been horrific. So at least we've gotten to the point where we have an FM26. And again, I'm not saying it's all bad. I know this is a lot of criticism, and I get accused of being very critical. I am just worried that these things are not fixable in FM26. And then I think what is potentially going to happen is the game's going to come out on November 4th, and the reviews are going to bomb it on like Steam, which then obviously influences how many people then consider buying the game. They might say, I'm going to wait, a couple months, and that puts SI at risk. Okay, back at it in the second half, told the team not to be complacent, and put my hands back in my pockets. A great suggestion I saw in my Discord when we were having this discussion is these screens, you should take the inside screens and put them on the outside, and the outside screens and put them on the inside. I don't need to see my formation or the opposition formation this large. Drop it here so I can get these match stats that I want to see, which again, are not even all of the stats. The advanced stats are down here. Slide that over to where it takes up this spot. I guess you don't really need to put the match events here. Or give me the option to put the opposition here because I know my formation and I get the information down here. It's a duplication of effort. Make the latest scores maybe a little bit bigger. Give me some optionality. And we give up 2 goals to Kanjinga and end up drawing with PSG despite having the advantages in every statistical category, but that's FM and football for you, I guess. This is the thing I was talking about. It's after the press conference, after the game. Why this X button doesn't do anything. So why is it there? That is confusing as a user. Like, am I supposed to, do I hit escape? What? You just hit portal and it takes you back. Again, a small thing. I just wanted to show you where we're at in the Champions League table. You go to stages up here, and I can only choose the Bundesliga, or I can go find the competition. Why doesn't it have all of the competition? So this is what I'm talking about. It's not that the game is so broken it's unplayable. And I've had fun playing it. If you watched my previous episode where I played against Bayern Munich and Chelsea, and it was back and forth in both of those games, the reactions you were seeing were genuine. But things like this, where you cannot, when you click on stages immediately after the game, because the next game, which by the way, you can't see anywhere up here, like you should be able to see how many days it is from now until the next match. But because it's now a Bundesliga match as my next match down here, when I click stages, I can only see the Bundesliga. Why isn't there another drop down that shows these are the competitions that you're in? So it just comes across as very, it's not just, I find it really hard to put words to this. It's not just that it's unpolished. It's that it's almost illogical how they have built this. So I want to love this game. And there are aspects that are fun. But I don't think it's just you're getting used to the UI. I've played for 24 hours in game now. It comes across as rushed and really kind of amateur as how it's been put together. And that, I think, is what I'm most concerned about. There are loads of other things that I've noticed, and I will leave a link in the description to that tweet thread, or whatever you call it on X these days, that highlights all of the things I found as I played more with this. And I think sometimes content creators, not really me, I'm not big enough to have stuff thrown in my direction, but we get accused of, oh, well, you're being paid by SI, or it's because you had an affiliate link that you were excited. I've not made enough money on affiliate links to pay for the game, not even close, if that gives you any context. I just think it's one of those, when you're getting used to the game at the very beginning, you're like, okay, this is exciting, this looks good, this looks new. And then as you live with it more, it's almost like you moved into a new house or a new apartment and you're like, oh, look at this and look at that, and we could do this and we could do that. And then you live there for a week and you go, man, the heating unit makes this really weird noise about 3 a.m. Or my smoke alarms keep going off. But that didn't happen when I was looking at the house before. Now that you've lived in it more, you're starting to see some of that shine come off. And you go, oh, why is that like that? It's not that you don't like the coat of paint that's in the apartment or in the house. It's that now that you've lived in it a little bit, you're discovering things that you didn't know weren't working that are now coming to light. And that's not to say they can't fix it. Again, I know this is a beta, but this is probably the roughest beta I have seen in a long time. It's not like they gave us a game that can't function out of the box. Like, I've had early access games that you get and it crashes your entire machine because it's so poorly coded. We're not there. But the level of attention to detail, again, not polished detail, just why is this like this detail, is concerning. Because in some screens, you have an overwhelming amount of information, which I can get used to. And in others, you don't get enough information and it doesn't scroll effectively. You have to be very precise. So it comes back to the feeling of, I'd be curious to know if they had different teams. Hey, you're the team that's going to do the fitness test message. And then they've cobbled these things together. It comes across as like 4 different designs have been smashed together and they've gone, we'll just fix it eventually. Because at the end of the day, I do believe this is, when you think about all of the marketing you saw prior to this, you saw 2 things. You saw lots of match engine footage. Look at the new stadiums, look at the new animations, look at the new movements, look at this goal, look at this new camera angle, match engine, match engine, match engine. Fair. It's a lot better than the previous match engine. But the second thing you saw was not in-game screens. It was they took screenshots and then they used video editing to slide and move text and change stuff because they knew it was broken. And my guess is they knew fixing the match engine post-beta, post-launch would be almost impossible to recover from. So they made a business decision to say, that has to work. That is the thing we are literally going to hang our hats on, is that it looks a ton better when you watch a match. And they knew the UI, eventually we can fix all of the many things that are broken in it. My overarching concern is how many of those things seem disconnected from each other, and how, again, I almost hesitate to put this in a video, but it comes across amateurish how they have built various screens. If they had the adaptive capability to say, hey, it's because the screen is stretching and eventually we'll fix that, I would feel a lot different. But they shipped this. They shipped it for 1440p looking like this, with the scroll not working, with the text overruns, with the columns not fitting. And again, maybe those are relatively easy fixes, but if they're relatively easy fixes, why wasn't it fixed in the last 2 years? And the last thing that I'll say, again, I get accused of being overly critical. Maybe I am. It is who I am. But it's because I care, and this beta makes me worry about Football Manager. And I love Football Manager. I love the stories you can tell, the narratives you can build. Even if I didn't do YouTube, I think I'd still play Football Manager a ton. The design decisions that built this Football Manager are what concern me. And I'm really concerned by the time this video comes out, there's about a week left, maybe a week and a day, before the full release comes out. And if they don't have some of these things fixed, yes, you're going to have your internet brigade. Maybe I'm part of the internet brigade. I don't think so. I think I'm trying to be fair. But maybe the internet brigade brings out their pitchforks and they run straight to Steam and they tank the reviews. And you go from having very positive, like you do on FM24, to mixed or worse. Because 10 days, if you go back to the Friday hotfix, is not an enormous amount of time to fix the multitude of issues they have put into this game. I can imagine we get performance enhancements where the clicking between screens gets a lot faster. And I would imagine they fix some of the text bugs and stuff like that. They fixed the crashes, which they did. I haven't seen nearly as many crash reports since the Friday hotfix. But the overarching design and the decisions therein leaves me worried for this iteration of the game. Will we even get a chance to get to FM27 or FM28? Because if we do, I think it'll be a really good game by then. But this is a really rocky foundation to be starting off with a new engine. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Can we please keep it civil? Again, let me know if you think I'm just being a rear end. I think I've tried to be fair and point out things that I like and that are working. And you might decide that a lot of the things that I'm complaining about in this video are minor and will eventually be fixed. And what are you complaining about? That's fine. But let's try to keep it cordial in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, hit the like button and maybe subscribe because I'll have more content like this in the future. Thanks, and we'll see you soon.